out now. So the NGOs and people that are passing those out are just kind of following up on the momentum that was started by the one laptop per child thing. What was it that you're trying to find out, John?
Well, Adam Oldfellow, who's the local MIT representative for One Laptop. I bumped into him a few minutes ago at MIT. I was telling him I was heading over here. He's still kind of, he was carrying around about half a dozen, actually, just now this evening. And I just, since it was fresh in my mind, I figured I'd ask people around about it.
They're probably still using them. I'm sure that there's a lot of need for those things out there. Last Saturday, a guy sending them over to Turkey for educating kids bought 30 box laptops in the warehouse to somebody that I knew. Kids need education.
Yeah. I think if people were more educated worldwide, there'd probably be less fighting.
Well, that's part of the problem. That's part of the importance of the thing that we're doing next week. The kids, like all these refugee kids coming out of Syria, if they don't get education, regular education, then they kind of get pushed to learn from the hardcore Islamists.
Yeah.
There'll be a whole generation of international security threats by not taking the time to try to educate them properly. And the ones that come out of those regions, Somalia, from all around, to get educations and end up coming to places like this in Harvard and becoming great people.
Yeah. Did you ever hear Jeff's phone number?
His phone number? No, his email address somewhere.
JIS@MIT.com.
Yeah, that's the one.
.edu. I'm gonna get another donut.
You should have told them to leave the sandwiches in here.
So is it appropriate to show for different events during the question and answer?
Sure.
Why not?
So monthly, there's been a group of folks up at Arts and Crafts in Somerville doing a crypto party the last Wednesday of the month. Basically just to go and nerd out about PGP and other such things. It's a pretty nice event with a pretty friendly crowd.
If you want to put it up on the board to see if you chalk and erase it, let people know.
Any word from him?
Sounds good.
What?
Citizen, someone
Did you
over
get in
there.
contact with him?
At Arts and Crafts.
What?
Sounds
Did you
Oh, I know
contact
what
Jeff?
you're talking about.
No, I asked you
Just
to.
erase that or slide, however it goes, and then there should be one of the big erasers there somewhere.
There's the URL, all the
Thank
address
you.
and everything.
Cool. Thanks.
Crypto party, crypto party, yeah.
So you're using the top level domain, the country domain for India or something?
So it's, I actually don't know who runs the crypto party
But
website. Yeah, I guess they're using the .india.
One of those things.
It's like a
English word.
Yeah.
but it's also a country domain.
Yeah, it is a country domain. But so are a lot of the word ones.
Yeah, like
I suppose-
Bitly or
Yeah.
That could be a little ambiguous, but I suppose no one really cares. It's not really relevant to ambiguity.
Yeah,
Yeah, so at least SCI.FI was at least someone in Finland. Yeah, someone
Well,
actually,
sci-fi? Cool.
yes, someone
Awesome.
in Finland got SCI.
yeah, so the folks that actually run the cryptoparty.in website, I think they're in Germany or something. But it's
Yeah.
basically, it's a wiki that you can update people that are local events on. So I think actually this event ended up on that.
And now we have to read about how the old domain hierarchy has been all messed up. You can't tell what country someone is in by, you know.
Unfortunately, cryptoparty.sexy was taken.
And of course, England really needs to stomp down on their domain folks who decided that, yeah, let's sell things directly on your .uk rather than bringing everything broken down to co.uk and the other.
Jerry, this might be his phone number. 217.
Can you give a call? Yeah.
Yeah, hold on. Old fashioned, right? Nice paper though, because I have to put a copy.
It's old-fashioned in quotes.
You can't just click on it.
No, it's,
A lot of things in, but we could about see something that looks like a phone
So
number.
the crypto party in Hawaii is where Snowden kind of got going.
That's what I heard, yeah.
Did you see that movie with, I think,
Crypto Citizen Report?
yeah, I
Yeah.
happened to see it, JFK Library.
So John, what are you working on?
Switching right now, I just finished up something this week. Does anyone have any job openings?
Frank?
Sure, please. What kind of stuff are you doing?
Myself?
Yeah.
So professionally, I sell stuff for the semiconductor industry. So I sell equipment from chip makers. But I kind of put an interest in cryptography, the ability to be able to communicate securely. Yeah, somewhat appropriately, the crypto party group is very much unorganized and it's very light touch with no real points of contact. It's kind of an interesting setup.
must be his phone. It's just ringing.
Did anyone send him a reminder to come to this?
He's on our list. I'm not sure if I copied him specifically.
Probably taking care of his hamsters. Some kind of garden rats.
Maybe he forgot what room it's
He
in.
breeds these hamsters.
It's just ringing. I think it's an office. I was just looking up in the directory. It's the number that I have.
I think it was only a week ago when he first last contacted him.
Yeah, so.
So unless if the space is really spaced out.
Yeah. We haven't really had cases where speakers just haven't showed up here at the BLU. I did in the Atari group. We had one guy, and he swore he was in the building and got lost. he probably couldn't get off of the infinite Carter. And then the second time we had him as a follow-up, he made the same excuse.
No, we never invited him again.
That's correct, we didn't. He used to own a computer store that sold Ataris. Up in Framingham.
So he must have been gaming you?
Yeah, I was walking around and I found something on the market I didn't know existed, a Roku 3.
A what?
A Roku 3, something at Costco for $79.
A Roku 3, I don't know what version they're up to yet.
So I had no idea they were also selling Roku television sets.
Yeah, a little baby goat.
I think so. What store again?
Is that your ringtone for Jeff Schiller?
They send me coupons that are Roku One, and they keep sending
I want
me
I
coupons
wanted
to
a pet
upgrade.
dog.
Somebody wants 20% off coupon one day. I'm sure I've got one in the box somewhere.
I have a dog in the building.
So somebody had made about Google Voice on the list.
About what?
Google Voice on the list.
The last place I lived at, it just said no pets.
Google Voice.
Oh, Google Voice, yeah.
Almost did get it.
So is that person here or?
Did anybody start a discussion on Google Voice on the list?
What was the nature of the discussion?
I think he was saying that he used to use Google Voice a year ago and there was some issue with
Actually, we could have gone to
continuing that protocol.
No.
Oh, not that I could find, John still uses it, because
Yeah,
I
I still use it.
What's
I
that?
called you on Google Voice.
Yeah, I still use it, but I don't know why he was saying that.
They asked me to verify my phone numbers in Google Voice just 2 months ago.
Your forwarding phone numbers?
Someone says.
Yeah.
I just got an email about that today for the first time.
Clearly, I'm not silent.
I canceled one of them because what we used to have as our home number. We moved, we ported it over to my wife's cell number. And so I canceled that in Google Voice.
Rich Brown.
Oh, Rich, he lives in California now. He used to be a regular here.
What?
Rich actually, back in the BCS days, he hosted the BLU for a while of his, when he was an ISP. I knew him from digital also. But Rich, I think moved out to California, I think it's in San Francisco.
I was thinking we saved it, something about Google Voice. It must have been a misinterpretation.
No,
He must have some,
they must have seen it somewhere.
something.
I mean, Google, there's rumors that they're gonna start charging for space on both Gmail and on their cloud.
Google's entire business model was to make money off ads. It's not enough. Everybody's charging for space now.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me.
They can't charge you for something you get for free.
Yes, I can.
Oh, it's not a better model.
It's
Say
not,
something like, we're gonna
it's
change
not
and
unusual
affect
for a company to give away things and then start charging.
Yeah, there's a term for that. We use it.
Bait and switch?
No, well, yeah.
It's not a bait and switch, but they've got to,
That's 3 words.
but they've got to announce it, they've got to allow their current users to move. But I've seen that before, it's perfectly legal if it's done correctly.
And it's entirely possible that they could grandfather people that have been using the accounts for a long time and just hit all the new users.
Yeah, and they might also have been in the terms of service that we can charge for it at any time we want.
Yeah. I don't, they should be making enough money off the contract work they do for NSA. They should be paying us.
Yeah.
Probably do that work for free.
No, they get paid for it. The new legislation allows all the internet companies to, not all, a bunch of them, Google's one of them, to help them with collection of data.
Yeah, Comcast just announced that they're expanding to enterprise.
Yeah,
I mean, their Comcast business, you know, is more for small businesses, but their enterprise now is for, you know, large
yeah,
businesses.
they're getting some valuable bandwidth.
Yep.
Multiple gigabyte bandwidth, say $500 a month, but for people that need it, it's actually a bargain.
Well-
They announced today that they're increasing speeds for everybody with triple play in the next month or so.
I hate that triple play. They push that and push it and push it. And I wouldn't
I
use.
just want internet, move my bits, please.
Yeah, I wouldn't use one of their phones if my life depended on it, because all you're gonna do is get calls from people trying to sell you stuff. They give out their numbers to marketers, so I don't even, when I did have it, I never even plugged the phone in. But I was able to convince them to give me the same rate for cable and internet, for the TV and internet, that I would have got if I had triple play. And sometimes you get them to do that. They would just complain about it.
My son-in-law has Verizon for internet, Fios for internet, and he uses DirecTV for TV. With Fios TV, it's horrible. The quality is fine, but the selection, the channels and stuff like that, and the channel guide is terrible.
Well, did they solve rain fade?
I have no idea.
Well, I know DirecTV is horrible. There's a cloud in the sky, your service goes straight to shit.
Well, I've
Physics.
Yeah, I've actually, I don't have DirecTV, but I've seen it, and I know other people that have, also have had satellite internet. One guy used to pan his antenna, his dish, and when you do that, all the rain slides off of it, and he said he really had no real problem.
Well, it's propagation through the rain. If there's a cloud in the sky, your service goes straight down.
I've been at my son-in-law's, both in Buffalo and here, when there's been clouds and stuff like that. I never saw any loss in service.
I've seen the stuff off of Dish, and you get pretty heavy rain, and yes, you'll lose signal, but you have to have very heavy rain to do it, not.
Well,
Yes.
at the rehab center, they had DirecTV, and the service was straight to shit when they had clouds in the sky.
Well, I've been at companies where they've had satellite TV, and you used to go out all the time. But I don't think that's typical of the residential services, at least that I have viewed.
Well, Needham is residential, and the service was lousy during bad weather.
Yeah, but that's the rehab. The antenna might not have been clean, nobody maintaining it. I wouldn't use just the rehab facility, because I've been in businesses that have had satellite and have not had good luck. The satellite used to go out all the time. But my son-in-law has DirecTV, and he never complains, and believe me, I would hear. Because he's an IT manager at a small company. And his service is very good.
And of course, then there's always the traditional rule of never use the company that owns the phone lines, or the line from your residence to the central office Never use that as your ISP. Always get it from someone who's leasing that piece of wire, but not the one who actually owns that piece of wire.
It's actually a very valid point.
Yeah, basically, though, I've been in a lot of discussions whether Fios is better than Comcast. And I think you have a number of levels there. From a technology standpoint, it depends on the community you're at, because Comcast has bought a lot of these old mom-and-pop cable companies, have some of these old cables, but in a fairly modern cable environment, Comcast
Really
is
good.
almost all fiber. It's just from the pole to your house, but they're not fiber.
They have some neighborhoods that the service sucks.
Well, I remember that quite a while ago, Waltham used to have, when Comcast actually was AT&T, first took over Waltham.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a lot of people that hated the service, and even up through Comcast. When Comcast, I found when AT&T was running the service, I had a few outages, nothing serious. Almost from the day Comcast took over, my service improved. And I've had very, very few problems with Comcast. I mean, had a car hit a pole and knock out the service, and they had to wait for Verizon to deliver the pole. But
Steve went ballistic for DirecTV, and he made a good point. You can't talk to anybody. All you get is that voice menu that tells you to push in all of these different pieces of information. If you don't have them, all you do is get more and more frustrated.
yeah. Well, the problem is for all these places is that sometimes your customer service people are located elsewhere in the world.
Yeah, like India.
Mexico.
Sometimes.
I had an interesting thing when I first got cable internet. This goes back where they were bringing in these big cable boxes that actually had AUI connectors, and they had to have an adapter.
Mhm.
Well, I had already had thin wire Ethernet in my house, VNC in my house. And what they wanted to do, so when I called them, I told them what I had, and they said they didn't know how to do that.
What do you mean didn't know how to do that?
They told me they didn't know how to do that. So I called the VP that I knew this was Continental Cablevision.
Right.
And he said he had the exact same problem. This is exactly what you tell them. And I told them that, they still didn't understand. So what I had them do is I had them bring me a Cat 5 card.
Mm-hmm.
The guy came in, he says, "You don't need this card. You have VNC." So the installer, said, "Let me go back and check, see if I have a VNC adapter," which he did. And for a very short while, I had two cable modems on a single, on the thin wire Ethernet. That was kind of issue.
So you didn't have a way to multicast the
I didn't.
bandwidth?
My wife wanted her own. So anyway, I disconnected her. Finally, I put her on mine, and we were fine. But it's just, the people that are in customer service are generally not highly trained technicians. They're people who are trained to talk on the phone, they're given scripts, and their job is to talk to people and help people solve problems. I mean, I was on the phone a couple of weeks ago with Javalia coffee. The problem was, I got a shipment and I ordered a filter for the coffee maker, and the filter was missing. And she said she didn't know how to do that. And it had a very long wait to get in touch. She transferred me and it hung up. So I called her back after a long wait. She transferred me again. This time it worked. The person I talked to said, you got the wrong department. She is the one who should have given you the credit. Went back to her finally, and finally a supervisor came on and said, we're going to ship you the filter, no problem. Then I noticed on a credit card, I got a credit card statement for not only the cost of a filter, but also for the cost of a coffee and also shipping.
Very nice of them.
And I was a little angry for a day, and then the next day I saw credits coming. The whole thing, so actually I got the filter, I didn't have to pay shipping, and I got a free thing of coffee, so I'm happy. But I was
Yeah,
ready to
the
call.
billing sequence probably
And
presented before it could be canceled, so they have.
There's the thing, when you're dealing with customer service people, they are trained in a certain way. They are not,
Exactly.
they do not have to be technically astute.
Well, basically, nobody wants to pay them anything, right? Because people, consumers don't make the decision based on the service. They just want the cheapest. You're gonna look, this thing on Amazon is 25 cents cheaper, so they cut all the service, right? I mean, if people were actually willing to pay, you could actually afford real customer service.
I suspect it might be a case of pretend you're dealing with, they literally are the army of customer service. They're just about as, they try to be no more as dumb as the army.
I learned a long time ago, my major was accounting, I have an MBA. And sorry that Jeff wasn't here.
Yeah,
I have an MBA.
I don't think he's gonna show up.
I have an MBA in accounting. Never really used it. But
Yeah, you can't find a phone number for him anywhere.
Blake tried to find.
And he didn't answer.
Did you send him some email?
Yeah.
Something must have come up.
The issue is that customer service is a cost center. A cost center doesn't produce revenue, so they are strictly a cost center. You can't tie it to revenue. There's no way to really do that. And that's true in almost every business, whether it's customer service or programming. I've always been in the programming departments and things like that. So, and that's basically how they view it from the top down. It's a cost center.
Doesn't take into account the lost revenue from the people that won't buy your product again. But there's no way to really account for that. No.
That's why they have a customer service.
Yeah.
But Dell had I can't say a very good customer service department, but they shifted their customer service overseas to reduce costs, and they really started losing business that way. Dell, of course, was always a consumer PC company.
Their reputation in the early days was that they were so reliable that, say you have a hard drive that would fail, they'd ship you a new hard drive before you even got the old one back to them. They were unbelievable in the early days.
Well, Dell was,
Yeah.
I had some bad experiences with Dell, but that's why I bad mouth them for years.
One thing Dell is good at is they typically have good display hardware.
Yep.
They have semi-trinitron monitors, very high resolution LCDs they've got are pretty good quality. That's one place where they do good.
Yeah, they've done pretty well.
So I'm glad you brought this up, because I sort of saw a bifurcation, like between their enterprise group and their consumer group. And I think that their consumer group is terrible. Like, I bought my parents an Optiplex at one point, and I tried to call, and it was like, you know, I was like, the CD-ROM broke, and I swapped out another drive. That works. Please send me a new one. And it took like an hour to get through their checklist. And that was, you know, Bangladesh or Bangalore or something, right? But their enterprise group, I think, is great because they moved them all back because of that. They were overseas. They had to onshore it back to from Canada. And I think now most of the time I call them in the middle of the night in Texas. And that's a different story. So they still cross-ship your drives. You put a credit card number, like if you buy your drives from them, they'll send you the new one with the shipping label. I mean, that's just part of the service. But those machines are not $1,100 machines for, you know, a whole server, right? Like I think
it's all in margins. I mean, that's really.
Yeah, it's all in the margin. So like
Enterprise is willing to pay.
Yeah, I will pay, right? I will pay probably maybe 50% more than what if I really, but the thing is, it's not even that bad because they have such large quantity discounts. If you try to build a workstation yourself, it's not actually that much cheaper, but they have a pretty big margin, and that I'm willing to pay for because 24 hours, 7 days a week, like I've never failed to get somebody who ended up solving the problem. Like they're actually not dumb for enterprise support, but you pay, right? Like this, you're not, it's not a $500 machine. So I think that in the end, to me, it's all just economics. And that's also a competitive case where if you're a corporate account, right, people are not buying 1 or 2 servers, they're buying 100 or 1,000, right? And if they don't have good service, they're going to go to HP or they're going to go to Lenovo, and millions of dollars will change hands. Not we lose you and your mother's, you know, all-in-one laptop thing, right?
Chris Allen, who a few of us know, he actually spoke here once. I know him from IBM. And he's got a problem. He's got an HP system, and he needs some help with it. And he's got to get some support from HP because nobody in IBM really knows anything about HP. I did find him an HP person in IBM, but I know an HP support group that's probably not going to be around after this next 30 people lay off.
So actually, I had a question. Does anybody here use FreeBSD? And is there any, like, I mean, I run Linux on most of my things, but I was just sort of poking around and curious if anybody found any real world advantages in terms of usage case. So you use a FreeNAS, but that's kind of invisible in a way, right?
It's pretty hardcore and solid. Scientific stuff you normally would call.
I mean, I installed a copy of the PCBSD, which is a FreeBSD distribution that's optimized for PCs, and it was pretty much similar to Linux Mint. I mean, it wasn't that hard.
You mean,
trying to make it easier.
Is that like a FreeBSD?
Yeah, it's FreeBSD.
Okay, yeah.
But
then you got NetBSD, and NetBSD is like their things that they run on the most hardware period and all that. NetBSD is rough.
Yeah, but it's but it runs more things than Linux.
It does nothing until you start opening things up.
I work to support over at Northeastern University, and once a day we get a professional con man trying to get in. And what you have to do at all support help desk is you actually have to prove who you are, because we would get professional con men who were amazingly smooth guys, and they would just sit there and work you for hours on that phone line, trying to get access to darker research. And I used to work that line, and my job was to sit there and waste as much of his fucking time. And I could tell from the errors he was telling me that he wasn't in the room with the computer that he was in, that he was trying to get into access to. And there was a booby trap built into the system. And once I knew he was calling from a different room. My job was to waste as much of his time as possible. And we even had guys show up. We had cops hidden around our rooms to catch people coming in and posing as other employees. Because we had guys who would physically show up and take your courses for you.
Serious?
Oh yeah. Paid employee would be paid to come down and take the course. And a professional conman would show up posing as you if you didn't come to class.
Where I went to college, if you weren't wearing cutoffs and a t-shirt, you were definitely a con man in class.
Yep. between Louisiana or something.
Yeah, in New
That was,
Orleans.
yeah, that was the regular dress they had.
But for teachers and students. So anyway, we can continue the discussion, or we can go to the key signing. Everybody have a key signing?
I didn't have a time for.
Okay,
I would suggest if there's anything else that people really want to discuss, just raise your hand now. And otherwise,
Actually, I was waiting for a small gap. One thing I can say about FreeBSD is FreeBSD does have ZFS shipping with it, and FreeBSD.
That I do. I actually run Solaris on my server for that reason, so I was able to put BSD on ZFS as my root tool on the install, which Linux doesn't do. But aside from that, I'm kind of curious what this experience is, because it does have less applications.
My understanding is FreeBSD is doing a lot better with NFS than Linux is. I've seen a number of Linux devices that were nominally NASs, and what they tended to have was Samba, and that worked. And sometimes they actually nominally had NFS support on there, but the NFS support didn't really work very well. So,
Well, D-Trace.
Yeah.
And Cheddar Man pages.
That could be a case of them using an older version of Linux. One thing I noticed when there are a lot of flame wars about BSD versus Linux, whenever I actually went in depth to investigate them, I found out that all the pro BSD people were basically saying, comparing the most current version of BSD with like a Linux 5 years earlier. So I kind of, they lost credibility in my eyes when I said that.
My sort of assumption is that they're not that different in
Right.
cultural. It's getting, I mean, there's sort of a feature convergence in a way, right? Because, you know, ZFS, because of the license, right, you can't get that on Linux, but you can if you put in ZFS on Linux. It's not that far behind, right? It's not as current as either the Illumos or the FreeBSD ones, but it's not a generation behind, right? It's still ahead of, for instance, what half the stuff that Oracle's selling. And, you know, you can, I mean, the NFS v4 works just fine on my Ubuntu workstation. I mean, for convenience reasons, I prefer something other than, I mean, I use the Solaris derivative for my NAS, but it seems like there's nothing that I really can do on one that I really can't do on the other that's all that important. Except I think Linux has better application support.
Linux hardware support.
Yeah, it seems like application hardware support.
So,
Like, it seems like it's gonna work better on my laptop.
As well.
Yeah.
Very well, and otherwise I kind of agree with you, right? You can do basically the GCC and the libc, so you can have pretty much anything.
Well, I've been out of the kernel game for a while, but I mean, there was some big differences between how they handled the threads and things like that in the kernel level, memory management. So it was my impression of the BSD, although I didn't dig too much into that one, was that it was, once you set it, it was set, it was solid. You know, it's pretty much carrier grade, you know, where the Linux was a little more malleable, kind of, so you could kind of tweak the Linux to do more and make changes faster and kind of be a little more adaptive. That was the impressions that I got of it too, you know. But to change BSD to do something else was a little bit tough. But what you have.
I also wonder how much of that is familiarity, right? If you come from,
Well, that could be
trained
true.
on the Linux thing, like.
Because I had no
Linux
idea what a
makes more
slice
sense.
was until I.
I mean, I'm sort of looking at it, trying to be objective. It seems like there are, you know, things that people prefer on one side or the other, but from a functional standpoint, it's hard to see there being huge differences. I don't know if someone offer a counter opinion.
I would tend to agree. For the most part, overall, pretty similar. So sometimes there's stuff that's particularly better on one side or the other, but not very much. One thing I can cite is the folks behind systemd keep saying, hey, it's an interface. You can simply implement it for FreeBSD, except that at least the original systemd is Linux only, and I don't really expect the folks behind FreeBSD to try to port it unless someone pays them. So that's one difference that may or may not be a difference for you.
Want an answer in the form of a rant? Brian?
Cantrell.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Did you see that?
On,
BSC now. It's posted to the list.
yeah, he's hilarious. I've watched lots of his stuff. He's hilarious.
Yeah, he really went off on, I forget what it was exactly.
A few weeks ago.
Yeah.
It was a BSD Now TV podcast. I believe he was interviewed on there. And he ranted for like an hour. It was hilarious.
I'm gonna step up here.
Okay, thank you, Blake.
Everybody have a good night. Sorry that Jeff didn't show up, but anyway, you guys have a good night. We'll see you soon.
This is really.
I actually do have one question,
The speaker does not show up without calling.
Jerry.
What?
Good. You gonna ask about the System D thing?
What?
I was trying to ask about System D. For the past like 6 months or so, we've been trying to find a speaker to give a nonpartisan talk about System D, and we have no luck finding anyone. So can anyone here suggest someone?
Someone nonpartisan
Ecumenical.
about System D.
If that's even exists, yeah.
Yeah. We want somebody, we're looking, actually, I was looking for somebody who is new System D, maybe a developer involved with System D, but who's not going to be an evangelist. Somebody that,
Multi-faith ecumenical speaker.
somebody that can be somewhat neutral on it. I think there are many, many things that System D is trying to accomplish. And I think that the System 5 init tab based systems really are out of date. And I would agree that it needs to be replaced. I don't agree 100% that System D is the right answer, but in any case, that's as much as I'm going to say about it, because I haven't looked at Upstart and these other things either. So, to do the key signing, what we're going to do is we're going to go down the checklist. And
Before we do that, I should probably shut off the cameras.